Hi, everyone. Pastor Galen, lead pastor at Shine Hills Church. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We hope that these podcasts will be a real encouragement to you on your spiritual journey. You can also connect with Shine Hills at shinehills.org. Hope you enjoy the program.
We are across the street and around the world. Shine Hills.
Well, welcome back to our podcast, and we've been actually having a lot of fun in between these. So we kind of do these in groups of 3 or 4 whenever we can, because we can only get Ken so many times a week, and so or really once a week, we've kind of got this schedule. So try to schedule as many podcasts. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining us and sticking with us. And
Putting
now
up with the fact that we're wearing the same clothes.
I think that's I feel like I need to explain that. Can you imagine 3 weeks in a row and someone's going, man, they don't ever change.
It's like, they have one outfit, still the same dad.
And so why don't you, same dad's box. And I will tell you, I've been sipping on this thing, and it is strong coffee. I think this is right from Russia to my stomach.
I think it is. Galen, I'm worried that this afternoon I'm going to find you in a corner somewhere, just like rocking.
Probably. Way too much caffeine. Oh my gosh.
I'll have to bring you food later to
no question.
redeem all of that.
This feels like it's crazy. Well,
when your words start jumping off the page, we'll know that.
No, they're moving around right now a little bit. So anyway, Genesis chapter 13. Okay, so this is an interesting story about Lot and Abram and how they separate and what some conflict that goes on. And in the last time we talked about Abram and Sarai and how they had some conflict, and God still blessed them even though he was trying to say that Sarai is my sister, and you know that whole thing. He wasn't real forthright with Pharaoh, but he was blessed and he went back. So he's traveling back now to land of Canaan. Actually, he's traveling back to the place where he built an altar, and kind of where he would be in the first place. And so we may get that map up here. If we get that map flashed up here, we can refer to that after I read this passage. So here we go. So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him to Negeb. Now he took Lot. Remember, he was his instructions when he was back here at Ur of the Chaldees. He was instructed to leave your family and go to a land that I'm going to tell you. And the fact that he actually takes his family with him, we're going to see some consequences of that. You were mentioning that last time, Julie, that anytime we disobey God, he still gives a blessing and all that. He's still faithful, but there is consequences. And we're going to see that how, by taking his father along, he didn't leave his father. He was asked to do. He didn't leave his nephew. Took his nephew along, caused him some issues. So there was consequences and all those. And so just be watching for those as we go. Verse 2, now Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold, and he journeyed up from Negeb as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been in the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. You remember that back in chapter 12, right? And you were talking about where that location is, possibly.
Yeah, just north of Jerusalem.
Just right now.
I think within 15 miles.
Right. So we had... Bethel is right over here by Julie's left ear, right ear, I guess. But Bethel is just right north of Jerusalem. Actually, you can see Jerusalem right here, and Bethel's right north of that. So that's where he came back to. And so he went clear down to Egypt. Go point to Egypt there. That's where Egypt is right in that area. Okay. And then he has to come clear back. And just as an application, I don't know, just watching this, if you would just trace his map. He did obey God, and he stopped, but he took his father along. He had to be recalled, and he went back down. He finally built an altar where he's supposed to be in Canaan, and then he sojourns down to Egypt and has to be called back. It's kind of like my life is a little bit like that. He calls us to something, and we kind of swerve back and forth and back. And I hope I've landed in a place where God wanted me, but I can relate to Abram a little bit of going past some of those places and coming back to places. It fits my journey a little bit as well. So, well, anyway, I'm going to read verse 4, to the place where he had built an altar the first time, and there Abram called upon the name of the Lord. And Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together. For their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. That's kind of impressive when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, that there was, of course, this is kind of a desert-y land at that particular time. Today, it's very lush because there's irrigation. At that time, I'm sure it was very, very arid. But still, the fact that it couldn't support both of them, they had a lot of livestock. Verse 7. Well, I'm going to read verse 8. So that they could not support both of them dwelling together, for their possessions were very great, and they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. And so we got some conflict between Abram's people and Lot's people. All right. Verse 8. Then Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. If you take the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and he saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. There you go. You mentioned Zoar, and there you pointed that out, and that's good. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So this was a very lush, where the Dead Sea is, basically south of the Dead Sea, that whole area. Mm-hmm. What they're saying is that at one time, now today, I mean, it is desolate. There's more vegetation growing on this table than in the Dead Sea. I'm not kidding you. It is the most desolate. It's eerie how nothing grows there. And it's just, and there's sulfur, that water. I floated in the Dead Sea a couple of times, and it's amazing. You got to do it. It's really fun to just kind of lay there. It's like you're just so buoyant. It's just like it's no effort at all. You just kind of sit. It's like sitting back in a recliner. It's that dense, buoyant. I'm not sure what the right word is, but you do not sink. Yeah. And you lay back, and your body is basically half of your body is above the surface of the water. It's amazing how dense it is. But it's because it's got so much sulfur, I guess, or whatever. But it is, and of course I had to taste it. And it is the worst, nastiest, sulfuriest. Why would I ever taste it? I don't know.
Does it smell?
Oh yeah, it smells terrible. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you have to take these showers. You have these showers up there, just kind of like at any beach. You can take an outdoor shower and all that. But you can't wait to get back to the hotel and really scrub it off. It's nasty smelling.
Isn't there something about the water, or I know that there's salt that you can buy, and there's all kinds of products. Oh my gosh,
there's tons of products and skin products, and of course everybody takes the mud, and of course we did it too because we'd had to. And so I was with Francis and Subash when I went, and so we were down there. We were getting all mudded up and everything and Subash was saying, "This is so good for my skin," and everything. And so we were all doing it and just being stupid. And so you can imagine how crazy we looked. So Subash is Indian, and Francis is African, and I'm as Caucasian, and so we look like Sham Ham and Japheth, walking around, and people would actually comment about it. It's like, you guys, you together, and because we would always be hanging out, and so here we were being stupid and putting mud all over us. And so that was about 3 or 4 years ago when I was not mature. Now I've grown up since then. Yeah, I've changed a lot. But they say that this makes your skin soft and all, but I don't know if it makes you soft or not, but it makes you stink for sure. Yeah. And they sell this mud. Yeah. When you leave, you can get this mud in tubes and all kinds of stuff, and they sell it big time. I mean, it's a big
I think market you can even order it on Amazon.
Oh, for sure.
There's always stuff that has Dead Sea salt in it.
And I'm not making fun of it. It probably, maybe it does have a softening effect. Yeah, but
just need some fragrance added to it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I'm sure they do.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. So anyway, that was the area, the whole land before you separate. Okay, where was I at? Zoar, verse 11. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley, and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. So anyway, there's the story of those two, but it really fits the narrative of there was a consequence when God says, I want you to leave everything and go. He said, well, okay, I'm going to take my father, I'm going to take my nephew, and it caused him problems. Consequences are a part of disobedience to God.
I was thinking about, back in the garden, and the serpent says, did God really say, and it's another, it doesn't say in text, but you have to wonder if that was part of Abram's, that, did God really say not to take my family? Well,
right.
He wouldn't want me to leave my family behind. And then, I find myself doing that all the time. Well, he wouldn't want me to not do this or,
right.
Whatever, and that's how it just goes to prove that Satan is not any different from then than he is now.
Right.
But we just have to pay attention.
That's a great point. We get this spot on accurate, and we know what God wants us to do, and then you start rethinking it or whatever, and rationalizing or whatever, and it's like it takes sometimes it takes a lot of faith. No, not sometimes. I think it takes a lot of faith to follow God, as accurately, and we all fail in it, and we're seeing that with Abraham. Yep. Abram, he's not Abraham yet. Hang on.
Okay.
Any thoughts from I don't know what you see there, Ken?
Well, just I guess kind of melodramatic, but when we hit verse 13, we cue the ominous music. If this is a movie, like, they
dun, dun, dun.
Everything seems to be going okay until it hits verse 13. Now the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked.
Oh, man. No,
or, what I'm saying?
I don't know why they didn't make you a sound guy or something. That's
we'll
awesome.
do that in our next reading. Ken can do our
No, that's a really, really good. If you paint this picture, they're kind of going along. Okay, we're solving some conflict. We had some conflict. We resolved it. And then...
And Lot makes a smart choice. I mean, what's the matter with that? Except verse 13.
Yeah.
And it's like, uh-oh.
That's true. That's true. And to think that Jordan Valley in that Dead Sea area was lush and that attractive is really hard to imagine now. But that's really fascinating. Good.
And it makes me wonder, did Lot know about the character of the men of Sodom at that time, or
I don't know.
I mean, how much was their reputation spread, or was he just, coming back from Egypt and they kind of look around and makes this a choice that seems economically wise. It's like, oh yeah, there's the really fertile area. I'm going to move over there. Right. Or did he know? I mean, we don't know from the text.
And just based on the topography of the land. So if they went and settled back in Bethel. Now, Bethel, if where you pointed out, we drove through that area, it's kind of what I would almost call foothills like, pretty hilly and evergreens. Now, I don't know if that's what it was in that day, but that's what it's like today. And so pretty lush, actually. There was a lot of vineyards, apparently, because you can see old stripes across, and so vineyard-like. So it had some kind of fertility to it. But it's about, it would be 50 miles to get to the crest of those Judean wilderness hills to look out over. So it'd be a good hike. If you're on foot, that'd be a long way. Yeah. And so for them, some of the herdsmen must have ventured off and said, hey, Lot, choose this. It makes me wonder. I can only guess. But somebody had to take a pretty good journey. Of course, they're used to that. I mean, they're used to walking. But somebody knew that was a fertile area. And so anyway, good observations. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us, for plowing through Genesis and Dazbog Coffee with us. God bless you guys.